Here we go. It is Cooper Mays. I'm Dave Hooker. The Vol Report brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. And it's that time of year again when the heat's going to go up and that HVAC unit could go out. Know that you get the right assessment on your unit. City Heating and Air Conditioning. Coop, how are you, sir?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm well. I was having a conversation of with somebody that covers Tennessee football, and we're talking about second year players and how much they might surge. So I want to ask you about that. But first, when you look back at your history, I know you had to add weight and all that sort of thing, but just getting the regimen down of playing college football and going into your second season, how much more comfortable were you after year one?
A lot more comfortable. I think it's hard as a young guy, as a freshman, to not get kind of lost in the shuffle of things. So I think kind of your sophomore to junior year is when you take kind of your next step as a man and kind of figure out how to really handle yourself as a professional kind of.
No, I could definitely see that. And you have an entire offseason. So let me ask you about some of the guys that are going to go into that second year surge type of mode, at least they're hoping for. And one that I just continue to hear buzz about is Dylan Sampson. And I know you've got running backs already, but Dylan Sampson just looked like a star to me last year, and I keep hearing good stuff in the offseason. What do you think?
I think it's very valid they're talking about that. I would say he's one of the more shifty backs that I've been around, and couple that he's a great kid and he has really good vision as a running back. So he kind of just meets all the criteria to be a good back, and I think he'll have a really good year this year, especially if he stays healthy.
You mentioned that vision part without getting into names. There have been guys that didn't have great vision. Doesn't matter how physical you are, they're not going to be able to have success if they don't have vision. Are there times that a running back makes an offensive line look good as opposed to what we typically think of vice versa?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's working in conjunction for sure, and sometimes we probably make people look good. Sometimes they make us look good. I mean, it's all trying to be one working piece, and when something goes wrong with us, they can pick up some slack, and then when some they may not be as good, we can pick up the slack for them. But same thing with the quarterback. Dropping back in the pocket. Hendon probably didn't take any sacks that would have been there for a lot of different quarterbacks. So same way everybody helps everybody out. We're all trying to make each other look good.
Do you block any differently when there's a different running back in the game, whether it's Jalen or Jabari or Dylan, just based off how they run, possible cutbacks? Do you do anything differently as an offensive lineman based off who's in the game, or do you even care?
I'm sure there's situations where you probably should block different for certain people, but our running back room is a pretty similar group, I would say. Like, I mean, if you look at the three guys that we have that have played the most ball for us currently on the in the running back room, they're all pretty probably on the smaller side, really shifty and quick and make people miss. So we've got a common theme there. So you probably block the same for them, but there's different situations where you change the way you block probably.
There was a time when you would hand it to one guy over and over, and then one guy would have 30, 35 carries. And this is before you were even born. A couple of teams still do that, but that's pretty rare. To be able to handle that many carries is difficult. How important is it to have you now have at least three guys that can play at the SEC level?
Yeah, right. They talk about I think what do they call it? Running back by committee
Yeah.
or whatever. Yeah. So I think that's kind of the motion that everybody's kind of going towards. There's not a lot of just one person that gets 35 carries like Alabama used to back in the day when they had, Mark Ingram and Derrick Henry and all of them. But yeah, I think it works for us. It works well for us, and you know, both guys that played a lot last year, and Jabari and Jalen. I mean, they both had incredible production, each of them. So it works out really well for us. And then Dylan being healthy this year, you have three real valuable options going into the game that can tote their weight.
We talked about a couple of defensive linemen last week. One we didn't really touch base on Tyree West as he heads into his sophomore season. How much can he help you guys? I know you see him on the defensive line.
I like Tyree a lot. He's always been one of my favorite young guys that's on the D line group. He, he's really hard nosed, smart player, but really athletic and strong, and plays really well with his hands. So I'm not sure what his role will be this year, but I do see him getting good valuable reps.
This is a very informal poll that I did on Twitter, so I didn't create any sort of trophy for you or anything. But you won
Oh,
a poll question we had: most important player, non-quarterback. It was the official. We need to work on the title. We're workshopping it as we speak, Cooper. But
it makes sense to me.
what do you think about being the most important non-quarterback on this football team? I mean, you were supposed to be too small to be able to play. Come on, Coop.
Yeah, I was an ETSU type player. If you no disrespect to ETSU, but that's what they were saying. So, I guess I've done pretty well for myself, maybe a little bit. So
Yeah, and by the way, you got a shout out from Glenn Ellerby. Talk about Coop's a leader in that group. There's no question about it. Um, and I know you've said you take pride in that a lot, but to hear it from other people publicly, that's got to be pretty gratifying.
yeah, super nice. Just try to do what I'm supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? I think that's kind of the role that I found myself in, and whatever role you land in, I think you need to run with it to the best of your ability. So that's what I'm just trying to maximize myself.
How much, if at all, do you keep up with your buddies who are going to the NFL? And do you follow the chatter around where they could get drafted?
Definitely, I pay a lot of attention to it. I guys that I'm close with, I don't really separate from them. Like if we go on to different parts of life, I always keep up, with my people. But I actually just had dinner with Jerome last night, so just they're in town. If they are, I always try to be around them. But big time keynote right now is Darnell and where he's going to get drafted. So I'm always on the lookout for stuff like that, and just seeing how he progresses and all that. So
The other one that I wanted to ask you about is Hendon Hooker, because there's talk now that he could be a top 5 overall pick. And I know you love Hendon, but if we're having this conversation a year ago, you would have called me crazy if I said top 5 pick. But that's actually being discussed. How awesome is that?
it's really great. Just a guy, talk about a guy that does everything right, and just can't even really describe the type of leader and just football player that he is, and how just when things are going wrong, everybody could look to him. So I think it's rightful, and I think a lot of people disrespected him throughout the process so far, and it's really good to see the fruits of his labor coming out a little bit.
Cooper, I feel like there's some people out there that are like almost waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like they think there's got to be something wrong with Hendon Hooker, and they're trying to find issues with his game. It kind of reminds me a little bit. He's a better prospect than Tim Tebow, but it reminds me a little bit of Tim Tebow, where people just wanted him to fail because he was so perfect publicly. What kind of image do you think he portrays, and how does that affect him with Hendon?
I think Hendon portrays a great image, but I think people, like you said, I think people are just very negative in general, and I don't think a lot of people like us being as good as we were last year. I think it kind of messes people up, and I don't know. People are just negative in general, and I think if there's one person that shouldn't deserve that, it's definitely Hendon. So people are tweaking if they're looking at Hendon like he's a negative player, like trying to find anything negative about him, because I've never been around somebody that handles their business accordingly to the task at hand like he does.
Can I play you a clip that Kirby Smart had recently talking about offenses and the difference of them, and just get your thoughts on it?
I think I saw it. I think I saw a little.
Okay, well then I won't play it.
Yeah.
He alluded to some offenses are easier on quarterbacks. What are your thoughts?
I really can't. I mean, obviously I don't believe that, and I'm never gonna let anybody slander Hendo, but yeah, I don't think so. I think, if you have a good quarterback, he's a good quarterback. And the name of the game as a quarterback is getting the ball from your arm to the receiver's hands. And there wasn't very many people in the whole country that could even compare to Hendo last year. So I think he's doing well, regardless of what school he played at, what offense he played in.
Agreed. Since you've been at Tennessee, because I hear players saying this more and more, I want to go to Tennessee to get prepared for the NFL. How much has that perception changed since you got at Tennessee?
I think it's on the way of changing. I think this past year was a really big step. I mean, if you look at the pro day and the plethora of just scouts and GMs, all the coaches, you can't you can't even compare to what in the last few years. I mean, that's a whole different level of exposure to the whole NFL game. So I think we're on the right track. I think it's getting back to where it used to be, and I think we're going to keep taking steps towards that.
You mentioned Jerome Carvin. I was a little bit surprised he didn't get invited to the combine. When I asked you about Jerome in particular, this fall report with Cooper Mays is brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com. City Heating and Air Conditioning will take care of you if that unit goes down. Maybe it just needs a part. Maybe you don't need it completely replaced, which will cost you thousands of dollars. Integrity matters, 50 years in the Knoxville area. City Heating and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com. Where Jerome's spirits right now? Because I was surprised he wasn't invited to the combine, and I think there's a place for him in the NFL. He just has to remember that.
He's in a good spot, in my opinion. I think the most stressful part of the whole pre-draft process is getting pro days and testing and stuff out of the way. So, for both Darnell and Jerome, I think they're both relieved a little bit for the most part. And just from here on out, it's just waiting. You've already put in all the work, so now it's just waiting and seeing where the chips fall.
Yep. I think he's going to be a strong NFL player. And you talk about Darnell Wright. There's obviously a lot of Vols that are going to be represented in this upcoming draft. Cooper, as far as your backups, Addison Nichols, Ollie Lane. I know you're a leader across the board, but you're also a leader in guys that would need to go if you can't for whatever reason. It what's kind of your role with them? What do you try to teach them about playing center that maybe they don't know?
Well, Addy sits right beside me in the meeting room, so I think a lot of my job in the meeting room currently is just seeing how he's playing, kind of just critiquing him, holding his feet to the fire and everything, and making sure where I stand on things because it's really hard, honestly. I talked about it a lot, and center is just such a niche spot, and it's really hard to understand. It's a helping hand, see, kind of expose what I'm thinking and how I see things, and just kind of show them the way a little bit.
And is that by design? You guys sit together, or did he say I want to sit next to you, or did you say you need to sit next to me? How'd that work?
I don't know exactly how it got started. It ended up. It's probably for the best.
And what do you think of Ollie and what he's been able to do?
I love Ollie. Me and him. I've always been a big fan of Ollie because he's a hometown hero. A hometown guy, a Gibbs Eagle. So me and Ollie are tight. Hanging out every day right now at practice. So it's good stuff.
He's got to be living the dream like you to be a hometown guy. Is he like the mayor of Gibbs or?
Man, I don't know. I've never been out there with him, but I'm sure he'll get the key to the city at some point. So, I mean, I just want to be there to watch him accept it.
That's right. Crowd tens of thousands are there to
Oh,
watch Ollie accept the key to the city. But it does bring up the interesting question of uh, the interior guys. We talk a lot about the tackles, but who have you been impressed with in spring camp? Is it those guys, or is it anybody else that's kind of blown you away?
yeah, they've looked good. Sprags look good. Lampley's look good. Andre's really impressive with his athleticism. He moves really well, so that's always good. He had a good finish today and one of the big runs. Just continuing to take steps. Everybody's everybody's just trying to, just getting better at one thing each day. So I've seen a lot of good stuff. There's been a lot of growth there for sure. From day one to where we are now, there's been exponential growth. So I'm happy with how it's going.
Well, and for the second year too, you guys essentially flip flop your offensive line going into the season. That seems unusual and unorthodox, but it's obvious that it worked last year.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's what's best for the team. So trying to figure that out, playing with different parts, there's no shame in shuffling guys around and seeing where the puzzles land. So we're trying to just be the best for the team that we can be.
The most important non-quarterback Vol is Cooper Mays on our very unofficial Off the Hook Sports poll. So there we go. For City Heating and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com, that's the Vol report with Cooper Mays. And we'll continue to break down spring practice as we continue to talk to Cooper. The orange and white game is just a few days away. Remember, it's City Heating and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com. Integrity matters.